Welcome back to another episode of The Doggone Truth of Rescue. Is that right? Did I get our name right?
About Rescue.
About Rescue. Okay, I'm Jen. And yeah, you guys should take this over. I'm not great at introducing myself.
We gave it a shot. Thank you, Jen. So welcome back to another episode of The Doggone Truth About Rescue. It's been a hot minute, literally in July here in Kansas and Missouri, very hot, but it has been a minute since we've done a podcast. So we brought Jen back out for an update on what has happened in the month of July, as it is already August. So thank you for trying to start us out, Jen, and welcome back.
I don't even know where to begin. So many things have happened. I think we can touch base really. There's so many important issues to address when it comes to rescue and us, and you never truly anticipate what's going to happen day by day, let alone month by month. And it's funny, I was thinking about it. I'm such a goal-orientated person where I love to have goals, and I love to set big goals, small goals, daily goals. But when it comes to rescue, you put these goals out there, and then God's like, nope, you're going this route, even though you think you're going that route. So you end up going down a lot of different paths, and we have learned to just trust Him. And with the CUP that's coming up, it's actually coming up a week from yesterday, Monday, August 7th, and we have literally done everything that we can. What we did was we revised the proposal to be only on I'm directionally challenged, so I think it's the north end, the north 20 acres of our property and not the south. The south was closest to the majority of our neighbors who had concerns. And really what that does, we've cut the proposal in half to only allow 120 dogs and 40 cats, as well as still have our vet clinic and cat haven, and just kind of listen to the concerns of the neighbors, because we want everyone to live in peace. And this is such a beautiful thing that we've complied with everything that the staff has asked and put everything we had forward in such a positive light. And it came to the point where I literally had to give it to God and say, I trust you on this, because I actually made myself physically sick before the last CUP, out of nerves, because it's such a big dream, and it's not just my dream, it's everyone's dream. And I've shared this before, but the world needs Always and Forever, and the world needs this homestead. Spring Hill needs this homestead. The animals at Wichita Animal Shelter need this homestead. All the rural pounds out there in Missouri, we're a movement, and this is just the beginning. And I say this all the time, we do too much good for God to let us fail. So I am not a patient person, but my God, I get tested in every way. And I hope that the next time that we're on here, we have incredibly positive news, because every time we keep going and never stop believing that this will happen, I know that it just lines us up to where we need to be today. So there's not really an update on the CUP other than keep the prayers coming. I think prayers make such a big difference.
But there is an update on the Osawatomie Pound.
So I was just sharing this with you guys a moment ago. I think there are lessons in everything that we do. And for those that aren't aware or follow our Facebook page, right at the beginning of the summer, and you just talked about it a moment ago, this heat is truly horrendous. And we're talking about a tiny little pound kind of in the middle of nowhere that is essentially a shed, which is a metal box with no windows, and the air conditioning broke. And it broke, and we were just on the brink of hitting 100 degrees. And by the Kansas statute, if you house animals inside of a shelter, it has to be 85 degrees or lower. And when the air conditioning broke, I lost it. And I put a Facebook post out that basically screamed and shouted and said, this isn't right. Who is going to care before somebody dies, whether it's a human being or if it's an animal? Someone needs to care, and we have to change this. And this was, I'll be perfectly honest, this was right after our CUP when it got denied, and it just felt like the world was going against us. I put out anger, and what I got in response to anger was anger. I hurt the people that I had worked with in the city and developed a really great relationship, and I hurt the city council. And the second that I recognized that, I owned it. I took full accountability for my actions in that one single post. Now, granted, we did raise $10,000 in one single post, but if I had put out a post about love and I had said, here's an immediate need that we need to come together because these animals and our employees that are there every single day, that we need to do this right now, I have full faith and confidence we would have raised probably 10 times that amount. But there's lessons in everything. And so I went in front of the city manager and I went in front of the city council and I took ownership of that action. And everything is lessons in what you do in life. And I'm such a firm believer in that. But at the time, we almost went back to, we were getting asked to leave the pound. And if we had left that pound, then it goes back to mass euthanizing the animals. And nobody wants that. And I think that's such a misconception by the public in America, and absolutely me as well, because nobody wants to go to these shelters and nobody wants to be in these kill shelters. But what I can tell you is that not one single person that I have ever met takes joy in euthanizing an animal. Not one. And if they do, I think they have bigger issues at hand. But if you put out love, whatever you put out comes back to you in every single sense. And so that has kind of led to us to where I said, okay, this was 100% my fault. Why don't we get to a point where we take over the pound and where we purchase the land and we have full ownership and accountability? Because here's the thing, they don't have money. This is a very, very, how do you say this? I would say economically, challenge. Hardship. Yeah. So you're talking really, really good people that just don't have the means to invest, or the city doesn't have the budget to invest in that. So if you look at, and this is how I see Always and Forever, if you look at people all across the country, we are connected by one thing, our mission. Our mission is to help animals who don't have anyone else in need. So if we can find people across the country to donate, to take care of these animals, who cares where you're from or where these animals are from? And so that's what we said. We said, why don't we take ownership of this and we'll have full responsibility for the pound. And so it led to, from an incredibly hard life lesson of humility for me, and learning from that to say, okay, now we're in the process of buying the pound. So we have an appraisal now. We're still waiting for that, and we're waiting for the survey, and then we will actually own the land and the building there, and we will have full ownership of that. So we don't have to, anything we want to scream and shout, it will be about us. So
can we extend also on a knee pound?
Unfortunately, there's nothing to extend right now.
Yeah, I don't know how huge the land is there.
Oh, okay. So it would be about 2 acres on there, and that's what would be proposed. And essentially, we want to fence it in, and and there was a really good question from the city council too. And he said, with your beautiful homestead and what you're proposing, what would happen to this when that is up? Are you just going to leave it? What are the intentions of that? And, when there's only one city police officer that's working in the middle of the night, they actually can't cross city lines. And we're in Spring Hill and they're in Osawatomie. So if there's a dog that they need to bring to the pound, it wouldn't make sense. They could not bring the dog to our homestead in Spring Hill. So we always need to have a spot in Osawatomie. So there would still be kind of like this holding area to where then we could bring the dogs to our homestead and take care of them there. But long-term wise, with respect to the building and repairs, everything is still kind of up in the air with respect to the appraisal and, what we can do. But I will say only good things are coming ahead with that. And especially I am deeply grateful for the city for giving us a second chance, because they worked with us for 4 years and it was so positive. And the one time that I post a very not so positive post, because it's all about love. We are literally all in this together. And I think it's incredibly important to remember that we're all human, doing the very best we can in sometimes incredibly new and what feels like impossible circumstances. But change is slow and change is hard. And as long as we never stop moving to grow and improve, then we've never truly failed.
I don't want to speak for Sai, but I'm sure you'll agree with what I'm about to say in regard to Jen. Every time you come on the show and talk, I'm just drawn into the next word you're going to say, because the life lessons and resilience that you have to be fully acceptable but undeniably yourself. But taking on the life lessons, a lot of people would have done that post, had the negative feedback, and then like, peace, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not dealing with this. If you're going to come back with the negative, walking away from the situation, but for you to take the step back acknowledge you were wrong, use that whole life lesson to then the ripple effect of everything from that, which we're going to get into. It's just mind-blowing to me, and not a lot of people have that heart or courage to say those things, especially to a whole council or on a podcast or on Facebook, to publicly admit I was wrong, but this is what I've learned. So I just want to thank you for a second.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, but I will say in the heat of the moment, I thought I was dead right. So I thought for sure I was right. I was adamant. I was right. I was screaming and shouting. And that moment where you're like, oh, shoot, I was going to say a different word, where I potentially risked the lives of souls in need of our staff, of every single citizen in Osawatomie, and the city council and the city manager who put their faith in us, and where I jeopardized that for my own ego. Guys, I would stand in front of everyone and say I was wrong. It doesn't matter what I think or what I feel. Nobody had to tell me to do that. I came to that myself the moment I realized that I had jeopardized all the hard work that so many people had put together. And I set up a call on our volunteers. We do monthly, first of the month volunteer Zoom calls, and anybody's welcome to join. And I put it out there, and I say this all the time: what you put out comes right back to you. Energy is everywhere. It's how animals feed off of us, and that's why you're drawn and connected to certain people. And for them to have the understanding and place the faith in us, it's a huge shout out to the city that shows that forgiveness and grace in times where we're trying to do our best. And people, this is such a good topic too, that could lead to, we just had a compassion fatigue workshop, and we need to do more of those, because anybody who knows what rescue work is like, or social work, or anything like that, it's hard not to take it home every night, and it's hard not to think about what we could have done versus focusing on all the good that we did. And for a moment, I lost track of all the good that we did, and I got caught up in the heat of the moment on that. Now, I'm not saying that was compassion fatigue. That was just me reacting. And that's such a good lesson as well, is reacting versus responding, and processing and responding. And that's something I think it's so funny. Sue George, she always randomly calls me a fearless leader. Number one, I am not fearless. There's fear in everything I do. But I think when you talk about courage, and when you talk about people in rescue, with the situation we're in with Wichita right now, which we can share in a moment, takes incredible courage to stay in a fight that you may not win, and to go through daily battles that you lose, but to have the heart and the peace of mind to know that if we made a difference for one single soul on that day, in the long run, then that is the difference we made, and that tomorrow always has the potential to be better. And it's never giving up on the hope that change is possible, even though we don't know how to do it. I think it's funny because I have so many conversations about what's not working, which is, I will be honest, the hardest conversation. Anybody who comes to me and likes to tell me what's not working, I will say, I know that's not working. How do we figure out how to make it work? But nobody knows. So it's kind of trying through trial and error, but having the faith and the courage to say, I'm going to try, and I'm going to fail, and I'm going to keep freaking trying as we fail and fail and fail and fail till we find our way. But what you find is, those failures are what lead to the successes that build the foundation for a better tomorrow. And it's to never give up that hope that we can change and make this world better.
I think that's the perfect transition into what's going on in Wichita right now. I'll be honest, I haven't really kept up with it a lot, but all of a sudden I wake up and my news feed is filled with Wichita dogs. And I was like, where is this coming from? I guess we're in Wichita now, helping these, because for a while it was Oklahoma City, and that's another topic. Podcast, tell us that journey. How are we in Wichita now?
Well, I can share this. We've been in Wichita since we've opened, and we have such a very special connection to Wichita, because one of the very first dogs we pulled, and Beauties and the Beast, it really is a phenomenal rescue that has done so much good work over the past 9 years, promoting and helping to save so many lives. And to give you a background, Wichita Animal Shelter is right next to a building where there's two buildings. There's Wichita Animal Shelter, and Kansas Humane Society is right next to them. Now, they have a contractual relationship, and please understand, this is my perspective from meetings and discussions I've had with nearly all the parties and my understanding of it. So if it is wrong, it's totally on me. So this is just my opinion and feedback, which is obviously hearsay, one party to another or so forth. But you have Wichita Animal Shelter, which is run by the police, and they do animal control. So every single stray dog that comes in goes there. Now, KHS has a contractual relationship. They're basically a rescue, just like us. So they rent the building from them. I think it's about $1 a year. So it's substantially nothing. But they take as many animals as they can from, I call it WAS, Wichita Animal Shelter, or WAS, from the WAS side. So the benefit, the thought process behind this is that they're a key fundamental rescue to keep saving as many lives as they can from the WAS. And they really, truly do. Now, what is happening is that when there's more animals that come in versus animals that get adopted out, no matter which way you look at it, if there's nowhere to put them and it's a shelter that euthanizes for space, then dogs will be killed. Now, in America, to get a no-kill status, I think it has to be a 90% live release rate, which means 10%. So think about it, break it down the numbers. 1,000 dogs come in, 10% of those, less than 10% of those dogs are euthanized, healthy, adoptable dogs are euthanized for space. You can still be deemed a no-kill shelter. And that's like the status that every single shelter wants. What we found was that there was a need for a rescue to come in and promote the dogs that were still on the Wichita Animal side, because it was just too much for KHS to do, because they're running their rescue, they're pulling all these dogs, they're doing the very best they can. So that's really where Beauties and the Beast came in, and they made a phenomenal impact over the past 9 years, promoting these dogs that are essentially on death row. And you have to step back and you have to think about it is any dog that goes into a shelter, just like I said, if they euthanize for space, they are on the list. No dog is safe in there. So if your dog is a stray, or if you lose your dog, or if you surrender your dog to a kill shelter, which you can, that dog is likely going to be put down for space, or another dog that dog is taking the space, the spot up, will be euthanized. So there's a greater community problem that's going on with backyard breeding, with dogs that are dog fighting. It's a sad truth, but it's everywhere. And if you're dumping your dogs, then you're essentially killing another dog. There's a ripple effect of that. And as I shared earlier, nobody wants to euthanize dogs. I've never seen anyone walk down a hallway and jump for joy that, hey, we're clearing the shelters. That is really not what's happening. And I'll be perfectly honest, I stayed away from kill shelters. I never wanted to be a part of it. That's how the Little Red Barn came into vision, because I wanted to have a rescue where people focused on love and they focused on what they could do without, everybody wants to sleep at night. You don't want to see the visions of the dogs that don't make it. Very high level Beauties is no longer pulling from Wichita Animal Shelter. So the separation happened and there was an incredible void of these animals that needed someone to advocate for that. And Beauties, like I said, they're doing phenomenal good for so many other rescues too, but so much has happened over the past 9 years. And I'm a very much a believer in right now. All we have in this life is this moment. So focusing on the past and focusing on the negative and focusing on what doesn't work is not going to change how we make something work. And this is where I saw after talking to all parties, you have good fighting good, getting bad outcomes. And so when you have good people fighting a fight to nobody can figure out there, you have to kind of take a step back and say, what can we do differently? And so when there was this gap where they needed rescues to step in, we stepped up to the plate to where we didn't know what we were doing. And it was honestly overwhelming. And I think in the very first week, we pulled 60 dogs because the list was so high. And that's what you have to remember. The intake number is so high. I think at one point it's 30 dogs a day. Think of 30 dogs a day coming in from animal control to a shelter. Now, where do those 60 dogs go, right? So we were putting out Facebook posts. We were tapping into all of our fosters. Let's say, hey, let's come together. Let's stop this list. We were super successful in stopping the list for 6 days. And we took incredible joy in that. I think we were all crying tears of exhaustion. And on the 7th day, there was a message, and this is kind of a Facebook group message where there were rescues together, and we got a message that said more dogs came in and we have no space, and we had less than an hour, and it was, here's a list of dogs, and then I think there were 15 dogs on that list that day. And here's what I can tell you guys. Like I said, The shelter doesn't want to euthanize these dogs. The rescue coordinators don't want to see the dogs die. The rescues in the message groups don't want to see the dogs die. But when you don't have a foster and you don't have a place to put the dog, if you don't have boarding, if you don't have a vet, if you can't get a health certificate to cross state lines, then rescues across state can't pull. And it was a Sunday. I remember it was a Sunday because we were out doing a cleanup on our homestead, just picking up branches. And I was at Tractor Supply with Megan, and we jumped on a team call. We said, guys, we got 10 minutes because I didn't check my phone. And they said, what can we do? And honestly, all we could do was we called the emergency vet, and they said, okay, we can take one. And I reached out to the rescue coordinator. Kelly reached out to him, and we said, who's your sickest dog that we can sneak into an emergency vet that wasn't even really sick? And we saved Daryl that day. And, dogs lost their lives that day, but it's very important to realize that just because we push out reality doesn't mean bad things aren't happening. And we don't want people to focus on the bad. And that's why we've stayed in Wichita. We've stayed in the message groups where other rescues have dropped out of that message group like flies. They can't pull and they don't want to see it. And I don't blame them, because you literally feel sick. But you have to stay in there, because if you leave, who else is going to do it? And if you just say someone else is going to do it, nothing will change. And so what we're doing is we're working with the lieutenant now, and we're working with the KHS side, and we're creating a public Facebook page where every single dog that comes in on the day of their intake, we get their photo, we get videos, we put up details of where they're lost, and we encourage the community on a public Facebook page that says Wichita Animal Shelter that can tag and share it. And we encourage the community, the Wichita citizens, to say, hey, these are your animals that are in there. It is easy to scream and shout and blame a shelter that you're murdering animals, right? That's easy. I did it. That is easy. But until you conceptually understand that it's a larger problem, and this is a community problem. If we don't all come together as rescues, if we don't come together as citizens and we say, let's do something proactively to get rid of the list, because these are all adoptable dogs. Like, these are dogs that can be placed in homes easily. And so we put it out there the day they come in. Now, there's a legal 3-day stray hold. So let's say they come in on Monday. So a full business day. So then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's their 3 days, right? So they can't be adopted or pulled by rescues from them. But a rescue can tag them and say, okay, I'll come and pick them up on the 4th day. That way it gives owners time to reclaim. So the number one goal is to send a dog back to their family and their home. If they're in a loving home, absolutely. Now, if they're a backyard breeder, let's just hope they're not watching our Facebook page. But ultimately, we have to take a step back and say, okay, guys, what we have done in the past 9 years isn't working. So how can we come together and look at this from a different perspective? Because I will be honest, I don't like the doom and gloom posts. They break me. I will share a really kind of special story. I think it was 2 Fridays ago. Just so happened to hire a really great team member. Her name's Greta. She used to work on the KHS side, so she's been in shelter work for years. And she happened to be in the shelter that day. And the lieutenant reached out and said, we have a list. We need 5 dogs out because we just don't have space. So we knew that we had to get any 5 dogs out. But she was the first one there. Greta reached out and she said, she's walking down the hall now. Do we have anywhere for her to go? And we're talking a dog friendly, beautiful pitty. She kind of looked like Plum, who was one of the dogs that we lost and is missing. So there's like a special heart tug on that one. And so Kelly's frantically reaching out to rescues. And I called Julie and I said, is there any vets that could take? And we had tapped out all our vets. We had tapped out every single foster and every single boarding facility. And there was one vet that we hadn't called yet. And she was on hold. This is the vet that is on hold forever, that you're on hold for like 30 minutes. And you wonder if you get disconnected. But they walked her to the youth room and they had tranquilized her. And they do that in a humane way so that they go in peace. But she had already been tranquilized. They were waiting to let her go. Greta's in the room and he's there and literally they're like, is there anywhere to put her? And I said, 5 more minutes, please. And they gave us 5 more minutes. And then Julie got the yes. And then she sent it in. It was like instant burst out in tears because then Greta picked her up as she was sleeping and brought her to the vet. And now she's in a loving foster home because it takes time to find the right fit. And when everything is just last second urgent, the last thing that we want to do, and I say this, and there's nothing wrong for other rescues that do it, but we as a rescue have taken a stance on essentially, we don't want to put a dog that we know nothing about and say, who can take this dog into their foster home without knowing anything about it, assuming all risks. I don't want to jeopardize your family. I don't want to jeopardize your life. I don't want to jeopardize your kids. And I don't know you or trust you enough to listen to me that you will separate this dog, because 99% this dog is coming with kennel cough, or it's coming with some type of transmittable disease or something. A kennel cough is basically a common cold for dogs, but that spreads super easily to your dog. So there's just too many risks in that. And can say to our fosters that do that, my God, they are heroes. And that is how we saved so many dogs' lives that very first week, because we had everyone say, we've never done this before, but let's come together and let's do this right now, and we'll find a way to save them. And what we have done is we have created an incredible network of rescues that have come together, and 200 dogs have been saved just in this 8 weeks that we've helped in. Now, let me keep this in perspective. This is nothing in comparison to what Beauties has done. And by no means am I saying that we are doing better, have done, or better than them. What they did was phenomenal. We are different in our approach to this. And we want to get to a point where it's all rescues coming together and promoting these dogs. And I say dogs, but truthfully, right now, the need and demand, not the need, the urgency is for dogs. Cats need this just as much as dogs. So please understand, our intention is to roll this out for the dogs, but equally do something very similar to the cats. But this is kind of where everyone thinks that the public goes to that. It's such a hard, horrible fact that people don't care that cats die. And I know the cat people don't agree with that, and I don't agree with either, but the vast majority of people, their hearts throb for dogs more than cats. I got lost in that. Did you guys have any thoughts on that, or can I answer any questions?
You did the complete overview. You just dove in, and that's what I enjoy about you when you're on the show, because then we don't have to talk as much.
No, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Like, I don't even have to think of questions, because you answer any question that was in my head. It's like, and then you just keep talking, and I'm like, oh, she hit that point, that point, that point. As a listener, if I want to help with the Wichita situation, what can I do?
What I would say is, when we roll this Facebook page out, guys, watch our page. We're going to do a lot of informational videos too. We want to educate the public on the importance of, gosh darn it, guys, puppy vaccines. Parvo is not necessary. And the amount of incredibly beautiful, wonderful puppies that die from parvo because we get them too late. Let me tell you, when we treat one parvo dog at the emergency vet and they need plasma treatments, that's close to $5,000 to $9,000 if they're there over a week or two, just from puppy shots, because we will go to the ends of the earth to save the dog that you didn't get a $20 booster shot for.
Cut this out if it's not irrelevant. Jen, can I donate plasma for dogs?
I don't think you can.
Okay, cut this out.
So don't know anything about that.
We don't need plasma for humans.
Here's the thing. I don't know anything about that. And I would say, I wouldn't cut this out, because when Charlotte was dying, she needed a new kidney. And I was like, well, do they do kidney transplants for cats? And they said, yeah, they do it at one place in the University of North Carolina. But they're like, no, your cat doesn't apply because she has Addison's. So when you have compound issues, you're basically ruled out for that. Now, a kidney transplant for a cat is $10,000 to $20,000. And I guarantee you, I didn't have it at the time, but I would have taken out a loan and done it. And you go to the ends of the earth to save your animals that are your family. And that's what we do for these dogs that are coming in as strays, that are hit by cars, that are left on the side of the road, because we are literally the only family that they know. So what can you do as anyone who's a citizen of Wichita or anywhere across the world? When this Facebook page rolls out, please, guys, share it to your feed. This is what I shared. The effect of social media is phenomenal. I don't know what anyone did to save these animals before that, because if you think about, let's say I have 5,000 followers that actually follow me. So anytime that I comment on a post where a dog is in need, I could pop up on those feeds. And so what they see is me commenting on dog in need, and then they might share that too. So the exponential effect of potentially saving a life, it's not just your community. And I'll share this too. I don't think I shared this earlier, and I think it's important to share too. I started to talk about it. So let me go back to the social media part in a minute. Like I said, I had never been in a kill shelter before. And this is not even defined as a kill shelter, right? Because it met the percentage. But I will always say, if a healthy adoptable dog there dies for space, in my mind, that is how I would define a kill shelter. Does that mean it's a bad shelter? No. Does it mean it's run by terrible people? No. It means that right now in this system, that is the only option that they have. I think God has such interesting timing in how he places events in our lives, because the very first time I went out there in the 5 years that I've been running this rescue, we were in a hallway and we had a tour of the entire system, entire shelter. We didn't plan on having a tour that day. It just happened to be that the people that we met walked us through it. And it was a day that we knew that space was limited and that dogs could potentially die. So we busted out our phones. We were doing videos. We were kind of sending this. This was the very, very first time that we'd went there. We said, okay, who's on the top of the list right now? So we got videos. And I just happened to be in the hallway there with Megan. And there was a beautiful black lab. He was older. I mean, when I say beautiful, I see beauty differently. He looked like a mess. And he had a terrible tumor on his nose. And he was all scraggly. But in my mind, I saw a beautiful soul. And he looked at me with these gorgeous black eyes. Then I took a 5-second video, and Megan said, he's on the list. And so I have 5 seconds of me telling him I love you and I'm sorry. Right next to him was a pit bull, skinny, didn't look like he'd eaten in months, horrible flea dermatitis, scars all over his body, with beady eyes that was kind of growly at me. Literally, she said, he's next. And I said, we had one spot in boarding with a vet. And I said, let's save him. And we named him Pat. And then we walked out. There were potentially 4 other dogs who were going to lose their lives that day. But as we were walking out, a gentleman walked down the hall with a beautiful little wiggly pit bull, that gray and white, gorgeous dog, happily wagging his tail. And she said, he's going to the youth room now. And it's like, let me tell you that the world just stopped, because I don't remember the gentleman. I remember it was a man, but I remember the catch pole, or maybe it was a different type of leash. But what I remember is the wiggly little demeanor of a beautiful, healthy, trusting dog that was going to be with God. And I have to look at it a way that there was a reason that we were there that day. We were not scheduled to see that shelter. We were not scheduled to see that. And it wasn't some horrible monster dragging him down the hall, and they are humanely let go as well. Would I ever do that or condone it? No. Do I find peace with this? No. But I know that we saw that for a reason to change it, because not one single adoptable, healthy animal should die for space, ever. And one thing we want to do is we want to make everything transparent, that just because bad things happen doesn't mean that it's bad people doing it. It's that we have to find a way to do better. And it's easier to say, this is wrong, this isn't working, and blaming others, versus saying, what can we do to come in here and try to make a change in a system that is not working. And I did find out later that the black lab was euthanized and he didn't have a name. But I took the time to put his video up on our Facebook page, which I really don't do. I told him I was sorry, and I told him that he wouldn't be forgotten. And five dogs died today as well. And I have their photos and I save them. And I don't look at them in pain. I look at them and know, God, they're with God. Like, what an amazing, beautiful thing to be, because, and I'll share this, Oklahoma City is a nightmare. Their shelter, they just euthanized over 700 animals, 700 dogs for an upper respiratory outbreak. I think it was, they basically euthanized their entire population that was there because they couldn't control a virus that was going around. So when you think about that, and I'm looking at the shelter, and of course, everyone, there's always things to be improved upon, but what can we do as a rescue to come in here and say, I'm not going to judge you. What can we do to help you and help these animals right now? And that's our goal, is to set up this Facebook page to ask people to believe in the power of change through the community and each other, and focus on love and not hate, because hate gets us nowhere. And that's kind of where I tie back to Osawatomie, and then I know that I've put anger out there and I get anger back immediately, but we need to come back, and we need to, as a community, doesn't matter where you live. If it's 4 people working for the same common cause, then we're a community together. Focus on love, and let's find a way to save them together.
And I think right now, if you've ever considered fostering, or it's been in the back of your mind, take this as a sign. we have dogs that are looking forward to say, like Jen said, when another dog comes in, one is euthanized just for the lack of space. So if you're able to open up your door or your house, even if it's for a few days, a few weeks, a month or so on your schedule, but at least giving another dog an opportunity at life. And Jen, I love that you mentioned that it's not just pulled from the shelter straight into someone's home without any history of the dog, because I think a lot of people are hesitant on that. I wouldn't bring a dog into my home without any history. So Always and Forever does take that extra step to at least get them in the right place. So thank you for that.
I would love this more than anything. Don't take a dog directly from shelter. Take a dog from our barn where like this dog was in a kill shelter, but we have spent a month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get to know their quirks, to say, okay, this dog doesn't like male dogs. This dog fights over toys. Even though we don't have toys in the barn, we can, tell if they resource guard. If they resource guard, dogs can resource guard a water bowl. But really, truly, I know I said this earlier, fosters are unsung heroes, whether or not it's a dog from the barn or a dog from a shelter, because you take on every single risk that we do as a rescue, and you do it in your own home, and it's scary. And I'm a foster myself, and I screw up all the time. I walk them right into my house and I do intros, and that is so damn bad. So take your time. Please separate these dogs. Give them time to decompress, because think their entire world has changed, and they literally, dogs feel fear. Lillian is such an incredible example, because she was, I think it was the second time I went into Wichita, I saw this dog cowering in the corner, shaking, growling, shaking, just absolutely terrified. And so what you can see is her entire body language is hunched over like a hunchback in the corner. And I said, Kelly, we got to watch this dog, because when they walk through, and let's say everybody's on this list, and you say, what dogs have the most potential to be adopted? It's not going to be the growly one in the corner. Rescues aren't going to pull that, right? So I said, she's going to be at the top of the list. And sure as well, she was. That day I said, we got to pull her. I don't care where she goes. We got to pull her. And, she was hesitant to get out. And the second they got her out, and she was on a leash, this girl is all love. And she is like 4 years old, and she's a lunatic, and she does zoomies everywhere. So it's just incredible what time and the environment, and just what I said, it's energy. And, hats off to the ACOs that do this, but they don't have the time or, the background to be with the dogs every single day. And that's what we want to do. We just want to help. And it's calling on everyone to be a part of a movement to not focus on the past anymore, but to focus on the present and make the future better.
Thank you for all of that, Jen. I know we typically on the episode have a dog of the episode, but I think I'm going to switch it up for this month, since we're recording this on August 1st, which is the start of Dogust. Should we talk about that a little bit?
Go for it. I don't know what it is.
Jen!
You guys.
I'm very disappointed.
Okay, Sai, this is all you.
It's all you guys.
Oh my God. Hold on.
Also on our podcast tonight, we have Cyrita.
No, don't be trying to add it in now. Both of y'all. Okay. So, August 1st is known as Dogust. You didn't know that, Jen, did you?
I would just like to say that Sheila said it was July 31st.
I said August 1st.
It's
No.
August 1st.
You said at the beginning this was in July, and this is technically August, but you might want to listen to that at the beginning.
Okay, I thought I said we didn't do an episode in July.
Okay, maybe.
Anyway, okay.
But
It's actually August.
August 1st is known as Dogust. It is recognized as the official birthday for all shelter animals to ensure they are celebrated each year. Jen?
Happy birthday!
Since Dogust falls during the week, we have been celebrating. We actually started on Saturday. And so we've been...
getting the pictures and stuff, and start on the weekend.
I miss doing fun stuff with the dogs like that.
Yeah.
Celebrating birthdays, opening presents. And so, that's what Dogust is.
Go ahead.
I had a thought. And we didn't touch it on this episode, but I do think it's really important to have another episode, and maybe we'll bring a couple other people on, because I obviously just keep talking and never stop. We really should have an episode on compassion fatigue and the work that the thought process and just challenges and how we deal with things. And we've kind of talked about this online. We all met playing football before, and I've retired. I don't know if you all have retired.
She's coming back. You
So
guys.
are you.
No, I'm not.
Are you coming back?
If she does.
Okay, if all three of us come back, maybe we come back. But the point is to have a release. Okay, there's a pack going on here.
Putting our hands in the middle.
Oh, there's
Sorry,
only
don't
two
look at
hands.
me like that.
Who's older than us?
I'm the oldest.
Jen's the
Oh,
oldest.
Jen, you can't come back with me.
I know I don't even have an ACL anymore, so gotta figure that one out. But the point, football was my release. It was kind of the escape from the reality of how hard this is too. So I think it's just, we've got to have an episode coming up as to how people deal with truly how incredibly hard it is to be in rescue.
Yeah, because you need an outlet.
I play hockey every now and then.
Yeah, we don't get those
Enough.
invites anymore. She plays on Friday nights without us.
I played last night too.
Really?
Yeah. I
In
was
what league?
The D League. I told you that.
Anyways,
Okay.
so the episode photo will be one of our Dogust birthdays. Pick out whichever the cutest is.
No, we need
and
to
put
do
it on
a
the album.
watchdog. Is there a watchdog, Jen, that we can
Was.
put? Was.
Guys, there's so many dogs. I would say if you want to celebrate Dogust, please send in a donation. And I'm not normally one to say that, but I actually will. This is a time where we have pulled so many dogs and we have invested so much into saving the animals. You know, $5, $10, it goes a long way. I say this all the time. We don't have an angel donor. Every single person that donates is an angel to us.
Think of it as sending Starbucks to your friend for your birthday.
Yeah. It's such
Give
a
your
great
Starbucks
idea.
for the day, donate $5, $10, especially if you get the almond milk, whipped cream, extra drizzle, all that stuff. Just put that towards a Dogust birthday gift to Always and Forever.
And one thing I do want to give a final shout out to, I know I say our fosters are heroes. Our foster and adoption team, my God, you guys, they crush it every day, as well as our phenomenal freedom drivers. I did a golf clap. You couldn't hear it. Without every single person behind the scenes, nobody knows how much work goes into that. So I cannot say enough on the medical team. And then there's the barn staff. You guys are part of that too. And I really want to get you guys to go there and see it, because when you see it, it changes your perspective, because you know these are the souls that you've saved, and it's our why to keep going.
Well, thank you, Jen. It is always a pleasure on having you out, because like we said before, you do the majority of the talking, so we don't have to do that much. All I need to do is edit this after. And thank you to my co-host, Sai, always by my side. We have never done an episode apart, so I felt like I just don't need to introduce you anymore.
Well, why would you do one without me?
Exactly.
You failed the intro.
I forgot my own name.
So I feel like you don't even need an introduction. Like, it's just known you're here.
But just for our new listeners.
Oh, that is true.
Because we have Wichita on the map now.
True.
So my name is Jen, and I'm the founder of Always and Forever. We forgot to add that part because nobody knows who I am.
Just like, screw the opening. We're doing closing credits.
That makes sense. They're probably like, who's this lady talking? So
Go ahead. Sai, you can close this out.
I know it's been a while since we last posted the last episode, right? We should be back on track, Sheila.
Yes, summer got away. I know for me, summer got away. I was not here a lot of the time, traveling for work, family, everything else. You were traveling quite a bit too. Our schedules were the exact opposite of I was gone, you were gone, I was back, but it worked out. But we will be back. We will get on a better schedule.
Adoption. We got to get the adoption on.
Adoption, cats,
Compassion
fatigue. We got a whole lineup of at least 5.
Stay tuned.
Don't give up on us yet. Ever. Don't ever give up on us.
Ever.
Okay, go ahead, Sai.
And
Finish
as
this out.
always, it's never too late for happily ever after.